recently. It's the third addition to our newest Chile clients. We announced that we're working with Patagonia Camp and also with Estancia Cerro Guido. And before I get into the presentation, it's important to know that actually the owners of Matetic Vineyard, Jorge Matetic, is the owner of the land that Patagonia Camp and Cerro Guido is on, which is combined over 200,000 acres. And then La Casona at Matetic Vineyard, it's over 50,000 acres. So here's a quick map to show you guys the convenience of going to La Casona at Matetic Vineyard. Again, very family-owned property, so it doesn't have that type of corporate feel that some of the other vineyards in the region might have. And it's only 1 hour away from the Santiago airport. I'll show you a map in just a second so you can understand a little bit better. But from my personal experience, I think this is the perfect place to visit after a Chile journey or even combining Argentina with Chile if you end in Chile. I mean, it's perfectly okay to begin the journey at La Casona, but I think it's amazing to be able to go here and be near the airport, but feeling completely separated from everything else. And at one point of the property, you can see the Pacific Ocean, and then to the other direction, you can look out into the mountains. So it's really a special place. Here's a quick map of where La Casona is located. So here you see Santiago Airport, and then Valparaiso is about in the middle, a little bit south. So you can understand what I'm saying when I mentioned the Monte Cristo Hill, where you can see the Pacific and also the Andes into the distance. Very conveniently located. I even took an Uber from the airport to La Casona. It was super easy, but the hotel does arrange transportation, or of course you can book that with the DMC as well. So yeah, it's like arrive in Santiago instead of staying at the airport hotel. You can even come to Casona for a night, but that was my mistake. I wish I would have spent uh, 2 or even 3 nights here. I arrived late in the evening to Santiago around 5 in the afternoon, and then I stayed at La Casona, did a whole day excursion the next day, and went and caught my red-eye flight back to Texas the next evening. So even though it was one night, I did get a full day, and I felt like that was enough to help me just decompress and get back. But I would spend two. Okay, so let's get into the property, and let me just make sure first there's no questions from you guys. Okay, sorry. Well, we'll just wait till the very end. Okay, so back to the property. I love this photo because it shows that the actual hotel. This is a building from the early 1900s. So Matetic Vineyard, this whole area has always been a vineyard for the last 105 years or something like that. But this building was renovated in 2004 to make it to what it is now, the La Casona Hotel. I have to point out something that I completely love. I'm a complete nerd about this, but it's these trees. Once you arrive to Matetic, you see these Chilean palm trees that are over 100 years old, and you can't really see right here with this photo, but they are so wide and so round. I've never seen a palm tree like that in my life. And it was cool. I think nature always tells a story aside from the history of the vineyard and the hotel, of course. Nature can always tell a story as well. So that's what as you're watching this, you'll see what I found that I love so much about this property and that what fits so well within our portfolio is that nature and history are really brought to life here. So there are 10 bedrooms. As I mentioned, they're originally built in 1900s, so the floor still squeaks when you walk on it. It's a very home type feeling, and yeah, it really brings out the history of the wine region when you get here. I mean, it's a very welcoming place. Like this is one of the common areas in the house where you can just read books, sit by the fire. During the day, it can get a little bit hot, but mostly at night, year round, it's quite chilly and very comfortable. So the pool here at Matechick Vineyard, which is amazing. The restaurant, which is about, I'd say 200 yards from the house. You walk out and go to the left, and you'll find the restaurant. The gastronomy here is excellent. I mean, if you're a wine hotel, you have to have the gastronomy to go with it. So that's a very important part of this hotel. Here's just a few more pictures. And of course, Clark and I, we've never been like winos or sommeliers. So we're not truly representing this hotel because it has the best wine per se, but it does have an amazing wine experience. And it's also a local experience. And you'll see that they also offer plenty of nature tours as well. So that's what I was really interested in. I'd never really been to a vineyard. I live in Texas. We have some in Fredericksburg. I've been to the Pisco region of Peru. Never really been to like Napa Valley or Italy. So my interpretation was, okay, I'm going to a wine hotel. What I'm going to do is sit around and drink some wine and eat some cheese and crackers. Oh, all right. That sounds nice. I can unwind there. But no, this was like the icing on the cake for my Chile experience. And I think especially if you're going to Patagonia or the Lake District, where it's so much adventure and you're moving at a fast pace, you're doing lots of transfers, long day tours. To leave immediately after that, go home, you're like, whoa, like what did I just experience? But to top it off at Matetic, you're like, whoa, okay, now especially if you're coming from Patagonia or Cerro Guido, you notice they all match the same essence. Like, of course, Patagonia Camp and Cerro Guido, you're learning about the gauchos, the forest of Patagonia, what makes Chile very special in terms of the remote escape, right? But at Matechic, it was not just a place to sit down and drink wine and eat cheese, even though that was spectacular. I think that's what really elevates the experience. But it was the fact that this is also like a nature reserve. This is over 50,000 acres of land, and it matches so well with Patagonian Camp and Cerro Guido because of that. You don't feel like you were separated into a whole different experience. You feel like you're sent to another massive nature preserve just in a completely different part of Chile, and you're able to say, wow, like these hotels that I visited, they're doing very cool things to protect nature, but also provide a truly unique experience. So what I want to tell you a little bit about here is the Rosario Valley. I'm not going to read this word for word, but basically, this is a completely unique region because it is between like the hotel is nestled completely between two valleys, which completely preserve the flora, the biodiversity, and everything that surrounds it. The nature, the trees, the animals, the people. It's really an all-encompassing experience. So even when you do the tour for wine, I'm sorry, this is a little low pixel picture. We'll fix that next time. But the biodynamic tour is what you want to do. I mean, obviously, you can just go to the vineyard to see the grapes in the process. You can go to where it's the winery where it's processed, and then you can do the tasting, right? But this unravels it all into one. And most importantly, it brings you through the property so that you can see that the process of Matcha creating their wine is truly organic. Like they've got animals on the property that are roaming around the vineyards, right? They've got a chicken coop. They don't use fertilizer with pesticides. Like it's all these amazing things that make tasting the wine just a little bit better, knowing that they're doing it right. I mean, this is a funny picture to me because when are you going to see vineyards, rolling hills, mountain bike trails, and chickens, and some of the world's best wine all into one? Especially since it's only 1 hour away from Santiago. So yeah, the tour starts with a guide. You go into the field and understand the vineyards, the grapes, the process, when it's the season for them to harvest, and when is the season for it to grow. Very interesting if you're not only interested in wine, but just interested in farming and nature in general. So you're on this massive plot of land, right? And you're going to the vineyards. You're at a very quaint hotel, and then you go to the distillery where they create the wine. And like, okay, what is this? Like, is this some complete James Bond underground layer that we've never heard of, like our movie shot here, because this is quite the unique experience. I mean, somehow they've nestled this massive distillation process underground into the property. So to understand the wine in Chile is a very complicated thing because there's so many options, and that's what they're wanting to sell all of the tourists, right? But for me, this was not a in any way, shape, or form like a touristy thing. This was more about learning about the history of wine in Chile and the nature and also what makes it so special. And for me, when I entered this distillery and got to understand the process, it was quite interesting because earlier that day we did a mountain bike tour through the entire property, and there was like 100 to 200 gallon barrels in an old warehouse that literally looks the same as these. I mean, they're wooden barrels that they used to create wine 100 years ago, and dusty wine bottles that say Matetic on it. So this process was designed over years and years, basically from a barn on the property. So when you're able to see that and feel it, and then go see a more modern way of how they're making wine, um, still using some of the old traditional techniques combined with the new ones, was really quite fascinating to me. And again, they do have, if you don't want to do the complete biodynamic tour, you can do a wine tasting and they pair it with certain things of food. And you can book all these from the concierge when you're there, or of course through DMC, or you can plan it with the concierge and reservations team from Magic beforehand. So, um, yeah, the one thing that really caught my attention, of course, it's not for everybody, but I love mountain biking, and they actually, I think 2 days before I arrived back in February, they had purchased e-bikes. So now you can see pretty much the whole entire property by e-bike, and of course, it's in the northern region of Chile, so they don't receive much rainfall at all throughout the year. This is a year-round destination. When I went in February, it was quite perfect because that's the peak of their summer. So during the day, it's sunny, it's hot, but even at night, the temperature was perfect. I didn't have to use the air conditioning. I could just leave the windows open. The stargazing was fantastic. So, yeah, it's very, very much a year-round destination. So anywhere you're coming from in Chile, even if you're going to, let's say, Atacama in August, because you can't go to Patagonia during that time, can still make a really incredible itinerary. And for me, this is the best way to see the property. You also get to learn some history about it too. And on the tour, you get to go to Monte Cristo Hill. Of course, if people don't want to do e-mountain biking, this is the one thing I recommend that everybody should do because they can infuse like a wine tasting and a picnic into it. At the top of the hill, there's a table, and then um, again, I have said this like 5 times, but that's the point where you can see the Pacific Ocean and the Andes Mountains and all the vineyards in the region. So that moment of time when I was at Monte Cristo Hill, that is what made me realize how special this place truly is and why it's important to visit there to unwind and just to enjoy the trip that you've had, to be able to process like how amazing this country is. I think it's an important place to visit. So off property, I mean, guests aren't really going to stay there for more than 3 nights. I think 3 nights is like the perfect amount of time. And if they do 3 nights, it's easy for them to go do a half tour to the Maipo River wetland. This is a nature park that they're working with closely with the government of Chile to preserve. And you can see over 190 species of birds. So this is a great chance to go all the way to the ocean if you don't have the chance on your itinerary beforehand, but also just to enjoy a really unique piece of land that they're working hard to preserve and save the marine species as well. So those are the things that I love about Matetic Vineyard and uh, what made our decision to work with them. But of course, they are basically cousins of Patagonia Camp and Cerro Guido. So these are great combinations. Patagonia Camp uh, is in the Torres del Paine region, and to get there, you have to fly to Puerto Natales. So if you go to Casona in the beginning of your itinerary, you arrive in Santiago, do 1 hour drive to the vineyard, 1 hour back to Santiago, and then you can fly to Puerto Natales directly from Santiago, where you'll find about an hour drive to Patagonia Camp or Cerro Guido. So yeah, super easy connection before or after, just a 1 hour drive. And we don't want to get too much into Patagonia Camp because the focus today is on La Casona. And I just covered Patagonia Camp in another webinar, which is on our website. And same with Cerro Guido. But remember, the whole idea is to combine Patagonia Camp and Cerro Guido with La Casona for a complete, well-rounded experience in Chile.